Hello, Linda. You are here today with me from Fife Women's Aid,
Yes.
and you are going to tell us a little bit about your kind of organisation, what it is that you do, and how people can get involved and get in contact.
Yeah.
You're happy with that?
Okay. So Fife Women's Aid is an organisation that supports women and children who have experience of domestic abuse. So that can be people who are currently experiencing it or have experienced it in the past and are still suffering from the effects of the abuse, which can go on for many years. So we work with children from 0 up to 18 years for children, and then we work with women from 18 years and over. So we'll work with boys up till they're 18. So we cover the whole of Fife. Our office is based in Glenrothes, but we're covering the whole of Fife. So we'll travel to do visits to people in their own home if need be. So we've got, at the minute, we've got 40 refuge spaces throughout Fife. So these are self-contained houses scattered through Fife. So maybe from as low as Rosyth up to up to Glenrothes, and then further up to Cooper as well. So they're houses on their own, just in the middle of a street. So they're not identified as refuge spaces. But it's a safe place for families to come if they're having to flee their own home because of domestic abuse.
Oh wow!
We've got a number of services within Fife Women's Aid. So we support women in refuge. We do visit and support, which is, as it suggests, visiting people in their own homes to support them. Helping with all sorts of things, from benefits to housing advice to help with registering with a doctor, everything and anything really. And we have a children's team who support children in refuge, but also supporting children in the community as well. They tend to do their work in schools. A bit difficult just now because a lot of the schools are not letting us in. But doing maybe safety planning with children, covering healthy, unhealthy relationships, working on some of the things they've experienced through domestic abuse that they've maybe seen in the home.
Yeah.
So, and our children's service also do group work with the children and run groups in the summer and things, just to get the children out and having some fun and some normal time, which is nice.
So very, very busy then. Lots of different branches to your organisation.
And there's more. We've got just briefly, we've got a counselling service for women and a counselling service for children. We have a court support worker, so anybody that's going through court that needs a bit of support, somebody to talk them through the process and possibly be there with them. We have a family support worker who works with mum and children together to help them connect and put routines in place. And then we've got our support line. So we've got a 24-hour support line, so anybody can phone up for help and advice. So the number for that is 0808 802 5555. And that's probably a whistle-stop tour of our service, but a lot going on and a lot of different supports.
A lot of different support. It's incredible the amount that you do for sort of women and children that are in those kind of situations, a massive amount. So obviously, you've got the contact number there if people need to get in contact. Is that the best way, is to phone, or?
I would say phoning is the best way. It's probably the quickest way as well. Like I said, that's staffed 24 hours a day, so it's great. Because we do get people phoning in the evenings and at weekends looking for support. We have an email address, which is info@fifewomens'aid.org.uk. So that can be used if anybody prefers to email in and maybe anonymously. That's maybe something worth mentioning. Even if somebody phones, they don't need to give their name. We can still offer some advice and support without them giving details if that helps.
Being on record, that's really useful to know. And So you've covered a sort of great amount there about how people can benefit from your service. How does can people volunteer with you as well? Is there an option there to kind of be a part-time volunteer?
Yeah, something, and well spotted because I didn't mention that. We have a befriending service. So it would only be women who could volunteer with us, but they so we match our volunteers with women either in refuge or in the community. So that's about helping them build their confidence and get out in the community. And a lot of people have come into refuge, they've had to move areas, maybe had to flee from Glasgow, for example, and come through here, so they don't know the area. So it's about having a friend as such to help them get out and about. So all the details of that you'll find on our website. I think we've actually got a really good comprehensive website.
Nice.
So anybody wanted to go on that and have a look. The other thing you can do to volunteer is become a trustee and be on the board. So if anybody was interested in doing that, we're always looking for board members.
Okay. So there's, again, a couple of different avenues in there. That's really useful information. I like it. A couple of our women's officers at the college over the years have done some things, like I said before, done some things for Fife Women's Aid or with Fife Women's Aid. So it's definitely an organisation that the students appreciate taking part in, and sort of know of. So that's sort of amazing.
No, it's good because you're right. Over the years, people have done like fundraising activities and things for us as well. So I think the kind of organisation we are, it's good about getting the word out there and what we do, and it's fabulous connecting with students and other people in the community. So because I think domestic abuse was historically kept behind closed doors and nobody spoke about it. So it's about letting people know that it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's not the women's fault, and there is support there.
Yeah.
And what worth mentioning, I suppose, is that we acknowledge that men can experience domestic abuse as well, although in much smaller numbers. But we do acknowledge that men suffer it, although we are only funded to support women and children.
And that's fair enough. Obviously, everyone has to work within certain sort of guidelines. But yeah, I think that's you've been very comprehensive with your information today, Linda. Lots of different things you can, ways in which people can either access information and help and/or sign up to volunteer. I'll make sure that we put a little kind of card at the end of the video with all of your information on it, because I think you've got some nice information leaflets that can go out there and access.
I suppose one thing probably would be good to mention is maybe a bit about what domestic abuse is. I think a lot of people still think domestic abuse is about the physical thing, which it absolutely is. There can be assaults and it can be rapes and sexual assaults and all sort of things. But there's also the emotional side, the psychological side. So, I mean, that could be somebody putting a female down all the time, calling her names. It could be withholding finances, withholding medication. There's all sorts of things. I suppose gaslighting and coercive control, because the law was passed last year about coercive control. So domestic abuse is a whole range of things. And I think sometimes people are put off contacting us if they think it's not physical. They think it's not worthy of contacting us because the people that are physically abused need it more. But I would get the message out, absolutely not. The psychological and emotional abuse can be just as bad, if not worse.
Okay, that's a great point. Actually, that anyone who's in sort of an unhealthy relationship, whether it be physical or mental, shouldn't make that contact. You're absolutely right there. Is there anything else that you'd maybe want to sort of add, or it's a lot that we've covered in that short snippet?
I would encourage anybody that watches this and is maybe thinking about asking for help, or maybe not even know if it's abuse they're suffering, to either phone up and ask, because we're happy to speak to anybody and give them a wee bit of advice and support over the phone, or check out our website, because our website gives more information about what actually is classed as domestic abuse. Yeah, and there's, I suppose there's lots of other supports out there, like calling the police if need be. So it's about keeping women and children safe.
If you're in an emergency situation, absolutely phone 999. But otherwise, they have support at the end of the phone 24/7.
Yes.
To call in yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Linda. It's very informative and a really important organisation, I think, to kind of have. So I thank you for taking the time to be here and explain all of this for us today. Even if it is just a brief, I'm sure we could talk about it for hours.
I know. There's a lot.
Overview that's going on there, and we'll make sure that we, like I say, add in all of your contact details at the end, in case people do want to get in contact, whether it be for help or to volunteer for people who maybe need some help as well.
Absolutely, that's great. Thank you very much for speaking with me then.